Today we're talking about the C word, the C word.
Oh my
The
God, the
one,
C word.
yep, conflict. The C word, it's conflict. Conflict. Nobody wants to talk about conflict. So maybe that's
No.
why we have low registration this week. I don't know. I mean, here's the deal. No couple skips the power struggle.
It's true. The thing is, when you're in relationship with somebody else, right? That's another person next to you, and that person is different from you are. And
Hmm.
I always say to Orna, look, if I spent as much time with, I don't know, the Dalai Lama as I do with you, that I would probably get annoyed with him too. I'd be like, really, Dolly? I mean, you're gonna slurp your rice like that? I mean, can you be a little quieter?
I mean, this is the thing. We have this unrealistic expectation that we're going to come together with a completely different person who has
Right.
their strategies for doing things and dealing with life and their thought processes, right? Their mental, emotional patterns and their belief systems and their values. And we think that somehow we're just going to magically get along when we find this like mythical right person, that
Right.
there won't be any conflict. And it's a really high unrealistic bar because that other person is not you. And so the key to a very happy, healthy, lasting relationship is to remember that that other person isn't actually you. And I know that I mean it is the key, and we're not saying that it's easy, but we are
Right.
saying that it is required because it's rather important.
So part of what happens why you confuse this other person as you is because when you're looking at that other person, you're dealing with that other person, it's like you're looking in a funhouse mirror and you're seeing this distorted image of yourself. I say that again. You're looking at your partner, but you're seeing a distorted image of yourself. And so those things that you're seeing over there that are driving you crazy,
I have no idea what you're talking
no
about.
idea, right? Those things you're looking at that are driving you crazy are things that are inside of you. Now, it's not a direct reflection. It's not like, oh, I haven't dealt with my anger, so her anger upsets me or frustrates me, right? It's not that kind of a direct
It's more
reflection in that way.
distorted than
It's
that. It's
distorted than that.
fuzzy and weird. That's why it's a fun house mirror.
Exactly. So, say, for example, if I'm uncomfortable with conflict and I'm uncomfortable with the fact that I get angry at times and I bottle it up, and then every once in a while it blurts out, I feel bad because my anger blurted out, right? And I have all this guilt and shame about blurting out my anger. And then I have a partner, and I'm not saying this is true, right? But I have a partner who's very comfortable expressing her anger, very comfortable being, just open about how she feels about things. That my judgment of my own mismanagement of my own feelings is easily projected onto this other person because it's so much easier to say, wow, if you would behave differently, then I would feel more comfortable.
And the thing is, you've all heard this before, right? If you have a finger that you're pointing at somebody, you've got three fingers pointing back at yourself. So it's always good to look in the mirror. But before we go any further, we're going to introduce ourselves. Hello, everybody. I am Orna
And
Walters.
I'm Matthew Walters, and this is Love Intervention, where we come to intervene in all of your relationship troubles to steer you on the right course so you get the lasting love you want.
Yeah, so we can help make things better in your love life. So if you're catching this on Facebook, please give a like, a share, comment, tag your friends.
If you're on YouTube, click the bell, subscribe. You can comment in there. You can ask your questions on Facebook. You can ask them in YouTube. We've got our team monitoring those social media streams as well as you here who are here on the live stream. You can use the chat to ask your questions, to
Yep.
converse with us.
And we are going to be getting to your questions, but I think, if we're going to talk about the C word, we really
Right.
have to talk about something that most people don't understand. Most people are very familiar with the first two stages of relationship.
Right.
Right? It's that romance phase. We all know a romance phase, right? It's that, whoa, I slipped on a banana peel. I landed on this person. They're amazing. And everything is hunky dory until they're not. Because eventually that chemical high in the romance phase, and I'm making air quotes, but it is really a chemical high. I mean, when you have that sensation of falling in love with somebody, right? When you have that kind of sensation, it's delusional, right? And so in that romance phase, we're deluded into thinking that things are always going to be like this. And eventually those chemicals wear off and you're with another person who isn't like you. And so right there we hit stage two, the power struggle stage.
Right. And suddenly all those things that you thought were so interesting because they were different, and it was so exciting because it was different
And new.
and now suddenly it's like, oh, I don't like those differences so much anymore. Right? If you're only more like me, if you'd only react like me, or if you only had similar strategies to me, or if you only agreed with me, then we would get along better.
Yeah.
Right? And you're literally in a tug of war. It's an ego struggle. My way, no, my way.
No,
Right?
right? And the thing is if you're really in a tug of war with somebody, pull on the rope. Right. If you just let go of the rope, they just fall over. So the key really to navigating those differences that you're with a whole nother person is to let go of that rope. And just so that you know there's other stages of relationship, I want to make sure we name them here. And we like to use the labels from Dr. Susan Campbell, just because we like to give credit where credit is due. The third stage of relationship is known as the stability stage. And that's where the couple stops the tug of war. They stop fighting each other. They stop thumb wrestling with each other.
Exactly.
And all of that stuff. And now they're actually fighting for the relationship.
Yeah.
Right. So the bad math of the Hollywood movie is 1 + 1 = 1. Ugh, Jerry Maguire, you complete me. No, thank you. That is a codependent relationship. When you are a whole and complete person and you come together with another whole and complete person, we still have bad math, because then 1 + 1 makes 3. You each make a third entity, the relationship.
Yeah.
So in the stability stage, that relationship starts to take priority. Like, I know no matter what conflict comes up between Matthew and I, we are better together than apart. Always.
Love that. So the thing is,
the fourth stage.
Well, hold on a second, because there's a choice that has to be made to get to the third stage. And this is extremely important that you understand that you're the one who's responsible for making this choice. You can't sit and wish and hope and pray that your partner makes the choice, right? Because you have to make it. And when you make it, it creates the space for anybody else, because it only takes one person to change the dynamic in a relationship. So the choice you have to make is you have to let go of the C word and you have to embrace the R word. This is the hard one. It's responsibility, right?
Yeah.
And you have to take responsibility for your stuff, for your triggers, for your wounds, because your partner wasn't around when you were a little child and your mother treated you that way, or your partner wasn't around when your previous partner cheated on you and lied to you and did all those things that, you're still hurt about, right? This person here isn't responsible for those things, right?
Not for the things in the past.
Not the things in the past. They're only responsible for what they're doing now. But you're responsible for your reaction. You're responsible for your emotions. We always say it this way: there's a responsibility equation. It's extremely important to get the responsibility equation. It goes like this. When someone has a problem with me, it is their problem. And when I have a problem with someone, it's my problem.
I'm going to say it the other way with the pronouns, just so everybody gets it and it's crystal clear.
Yeah.
So, hi, audience members. Hi, Love on Purpose community. Hello, everybody, YouTube, Facebook, and here, Vimeo streaming. Thanks for joining us. I'm Orna Walters, and here is the responsibility equation.
Okay.
If someone has a problem with you, it is their problem. Let it be their problem that they have a problem with you. Oh, but when you have a problem with someone, right, you're judging their behavior, you have an issue with them, now that's your problem. And taking responsibility this way really leaves like a line down the middle of the road. I know when we talk about relationships, everybody likes to think we're just going to merge right in and be one all the time.
One big happy family.
Yeah, and we are most of the time, right? But the thing is this dividing line is the line of respect. So in order to have respectful love, there must be a boundary between two people, right? I love Matthew, but I can't do anything to Matthew. That's not appropriate, right? So we want you to understand that this boundary says, oh, if I have a problem with something Matthew did, that's my problem. That's not about me going to Matthew and saying, Matthew, this is a problem because you did X, Y, Z.
And you need to la, 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 la.
And
right?
you, we don't like that. That doesn't sound good. Nobody likes to hear that. And somebody came to you and said all the you immediately get on the defensive. There's no room. There's no room for a conversation. It gets really charged really quickly. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to really want to go over the 5 stages of relationship before we jump in and start taking questions.
Let's do that.
Okay, so we're going to get to your questions. I promise. Keep them coming in the chat. We're going to get to them, I promise. I'm Orna Walters.
I'm Matthew Walters, and this is Love Intervention.
Yes. So 5 stages of relationship. Most people only lather, rinse, repeat those first 2. You know them, the romance phase. Oh, it's so intoxicating when we slip on a banana peel and we land on somebody. We think, this is my person. It's only been a few weeks and you're like moving in together, right? And maybe that's when you were younger. Maybe you're taking it slower now, but you're investing your emotions just as quickly. Maybe, maybe not. So, right, there's a varying degree of people listening. I want to give you a little, benefit of the doubt that you might start taking things a little slower. But that romance phase is intoxicating on purpose because it's species survival, right? If you're deluded into thinking that person's just like you and you're not going to have problems and everything's going to be always this rosy, oh, species survival. We're going to procreate and make babies and the species survives. But let's talk about how couples survive. Because no couple skips that power struggle stage. I know it
Stage 2.
sucks to hear it. And that's what we're talking about today, the C word, conflict. Now, the power struggle stage isn't, we had a little misunderstanding and we worked it out. That is not the power struggle stage. Nope. Matthew, tell them what it is.
The power struggle is an ongoing battle, an ongoing struggle, an ongoing conflict. It's like you're in a cycle. You keep going back over the same fight over and over, and it never seems to resolve. Maybe you have a little détente where you take a break and you're like, oh, we're going to take a break and we're going to be lovey-dovey again. And then, oh, you did that thing. Right? And you're back into power struggle, right? That's a power struggle. Sometimes it's a Cold War if both of you are conflict avoidant, right? It can just be like, oh, grumble, 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 and then you never deal with it, right?
And there's no intimacy, right? There's no resolution. There's no repair, a repair. So a conflict, the C word, comes with another R word, a repair.
Right. And I don't know if we're going to go all the way into the steps to creating a repair.
I know. We're not.
We get into the next phase. We might, right? It depends on the questions, right?
Okay.
So we get into the third phase, stability, right? Stability stage requires you make a choice. And it says, hey, I'm going to take responsibility for my stuff. I'm going to fight for this relationship. And I'm going to say, hey, I know we're having this conflict, but I'm here to work it out with you. And because I want this relationship to work. That's the stability stage, because it feels like, hey, you're actually in this together and you're actually trying to make it work.
What happens in the stability stage is the couple has bonded together and it becomes like a you and me against the world kind of thing. And it's really calm. Actually, couples can get stuck in this stability stage in stage 3 if they don't grow to the next stage. Because it can be really yummy and comfortable after the power struggle to just want to stay in the stability stage and not move forward. So that 4th stage of relationship is another C word. It's the commitment stage. The commitment stage, it's stage 4 of a relationship. Most couples get engaged to be married for the rest of their lives in the romance stage of relationship. And by the time there's that ceremony, the wedding ceremony and all that stuff, they're already in a power struggle.
Right.
Ooh, that's why so many marriages don't last, because people mix up the commitment stage of relationship with exclusivity, meaning we're not going to date anybody else.
Exclusivity is just that. It's exclusivity.
You're not
going to date anybody else, right? You're just dating this person, right? And you're
because
figuring it out.
More.
You're getting to know each other. You're discovering more. But when you get to the commitment phase, that's when you're like, hey, you know what? I choose you no matter what. Exactly as you are. I don't need you to change. There's that thing you do, but I'm going to live with that thing for the rest of my life because I love you.
There's so much good
stuff. I even love that thing, right? Sometimes, right? So, the commitment stage is like you're making that choice, and you're going, "I get it. I'm all in.
I'm all in with you as you are right now." So I like to say it like this in the commitment stage. It's like you found that person in the as is section in IKEA, right? The as is section. We've all gotten a deal there. Come on, I know you have. You found the thing, it had a little scuff, a little ding, and you're like, it's already assembled for one thing, right, at IKEA. And you're like, I'm going to take this home and love it as it is. I'm going to put that little scuff mark towards the wall. No one else will see it. And you're going to accept it and love it as is. And so that's kind of what you have to do when you get to that 4th stage of relationship. That you say, I see who you are. I can evaluate that we're a good match for a lot of other reasons besides I'm hot for you. We can get into that another time. But it's really important to know you don't need that person to change at all. You're like, I'm willing to take you for the rest of my life exactly as you are right now. I'm not requiring any change from you. And then the 5th stage, Matthew, take it away.
The 5th stage is the bliss or co-creation stage, right? And this is great, right? You guys have committed to each other. You're like, I'm all in. And now you can you can let that love expand outside of the two of you, and you go into this bigger spreading of love, right? Now that can be with a family, that could be bringing children into your family, that could be spreading love, by working together on something like a charity or a philanthropic work, or like for us, it's this business, this is work we do, right? Our love was so strong, we have to share this with other people.
It spills over, right? The fifth stage is literally like there's so much love between these two people, it spills out into the world and into the community, right? Yeah. And that's the bliss stage. Now, I would love to tell you all, wow, you get all the way to that fifth stage with somebody and you just live there happily ever after. No, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. That's not what happens. What happens is you go through those 5 stages, and then, like a little bunny, you start hopscotching around and around. And so Matthew and I have had a revisit to that power struggle stage, right? And then we've had a renaissance of the romance phase, if you know what I mean. So you start hopscotching around. And so the thing is if you understand these 5 stages, you give yourself some breathing room in the relationship to make the selection in the first place. So we're here today with Love Intervention, talking about the C word, conflict. I'm Orna Walters.
And I'm Matthew Walters. And we're here to also intervene in your love struggles, your love troubles, so that you can get the lasting love that you desire. So we're going to jump into some questions. We've got some good ones here. Barbara gets right to the point. I'm going to start there because it talks about something we've already brought up. Barbara says, how can you trust again once you've been lied to?
I'm going to take this one.
You're going to take it?
I think unless you have something really short you want to say, but you know where I'm going.
Go for it.
Okay. Hi, Barbara. I'm Orna Walters. I used to not be married to this guy, and I had quite a few relationships before. And on New Year's Eve of 1994, the boyfriend I lived with, who I thought I would share my whole life with, beat me. I know, it's kind of a downer to talk about, isn't it? So he tried to kill me, and I left. I didn't have another boyfriend for 4.5 years, and I lived in Los Angeles, California, and he lived on the island of Oahu, in the islands of Hawaii, because that felt, I think back to my younger self thinking, I was like, oh, that feels kind of safe. He was hot. We had a great time while I was in Hawaii, and he'd come visit me, but then he'd get on a plane and he'd go home, right? And I could have these long phone calls. It felt like an ideal relationship at the time because, I get that being lied to is a betrayal, and I don't want to make light of what happened to me. And I know that a lot of women have gone through worse, and I've dedicated my life to giving women a voice so that they can speak up and not carry the shame of another man's actions. So here's the thing, Barbara. Forgiveness is for you, because it's forgiveness that ultimately sets you free. I would never be sitting here right now with this amazing person that I'm married to if I couldn't find forgiveness for that ex-boyfriend, because when I found forgiveness for the way he treated me, it opened my heart again so that I could love again. And you know what? My boyfriends before Matthew weren't bad men. They just weren't my match for a lot of different reasons. But I was still growing and evolving through those relationships. Each time, sort of going back to the well of what can I gain out of this experience and become a better version of me so that I could be ready for this amazing human being I share my life with today. And I hope that helps. And I bet Matthew has some things to say specifically.
I have a very different take because you haven't given us enough information. I was curious if this person is still wanting, desiring, attempting to be in your life. Are you still in relationship, right? And if you're still in relationship, it's a different path. Forgiveness is the path, but it's also about making very specific requests of your partner who has betrayed you, who's lied to you, right?
Oh, that's a good one.
So when somebody has transgressed in that way, however it was in your relationship, there needs to be an effort of amends. There needs to be an effort to make it up to you. There needs to be an effort to earn your trust, right? Once again, because that trust has been broken. And so, not everybody is, thinking, well, I got to make it up to this person. They're like, can you just forgive me? Because they feel shame or hurt or guilt or whatever for their behavior, right? Because most people do, unless they're sociopaths.
And there aren't that many.
And there aren't that many sociopaths, right? So, most people aren't so willing to step into the discomfort of owning the fact that they have flaws and really taking responsibility for their flaws. But it's going to require you, if you want this relationship to continue, to make some requests, right? And that request is going to be very specific. It's going to be, look, I haven't left. I'm still here. I'd like to trust again. But I need you to take some action to show me consistently over time that you're a trustworthy person. And so I have these requests of you. They could be specific requests, or you could make a request of a more sense of an amends, that I need you to do something to make it up to me, right? And I'll decide whether or not that's enough to make it up to me.
Yeah. And so you're absolutely right. We don't know if Barbara is still in that relationship or if she has moved on from that relationship and is single, trying to trust again another person or trust again the person she's with. So Barbara, if you're still with us, you can add a clarifying comment.
Yeah.
I hope what we've shared with you is helpful. And I'm also going to ask, Mac shared a question I don't understand. Mac says, I am a single senior man. What will I find?
I think that's simple to answer. You'll find that there are more single senior women than there are single senior men.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Right? Because generally women live longer.
So you think he's asking about dating?
He's got to be asking about dating, right? So if he's asking about dating, I'm just going to say there's going to be more women out there than there are men. So not that you have to be picky or choosy, but your options.
You have more picks.
You have more picks than the women do.
You have more choices.
We generally.
Unless you date
we've coached more older women than we have, senior men, and generally it's a little more difficult for a senior woman to find the dates because there's just fewer men out there.
Yeah, I mean,
and a lot of men are still looking younger, and so there's that struggle as well. So if you're looking for somebody who's a contemporary of yours, you're going to find that there's a lot of choices.
You're going to have a lot of choices, and we would highly recommend you go online.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
Okay. Anna Marie says, I left my husband 4 years ago, and I'm very selective with who I date. Well, you can be selective about who you're in a relationship with, but you don't have to be selective with who you date. You say you're just getting back into the dating game. There's not a question there. Wait, there it is. You want to read the second part?
I noticed that a lot of guys want me to pursue them, and when I see that is my cue that they are not for me, especially if I never hear from that guy again. But then they pop back up again. I
politely decline. Oh, this is a really long question. I politely decline because at that point, I don't want to be someone's sloppy seconds. It's a lot of assumptions, Anna Maria.
Yeah.
Sorry.
A lot of judgment.
Yeah, there's a lot of judgment that's going on. You do not have to be super selective on who you go on a date with. As a matter of fact, dating is for first a discovery about yourself through the dating process. And so there's lots of good stuff online at our blog. You can go to loveonpurpose.com, click the blog, search in the blog for how to date for your soulmate or all kinds of dating stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to go over those today because I want to get down to some of these other questions about conflict because it is our topic tonight. So I don't want you to feel like I'm blowing you off. It's just we've covered a lot of dating strategies in these love interventions, and we kind of wanted to give it another take. So I'm just going to say once more, attraction is not a requirement for a date. It's a date. Go out and meet this other person. Every single person you meet knows people that you have not met yet. Mm-hmm. Every single person. So I think I shared this once before. I think it's important. I'm going to share it again. Yeah. I have a friend from college who is married to the brother of a guy I met when I was on J-Date. So the brother was on J-Date. I was on J-Date. We met. Those two people met. They got married. I didn't marry that brother, clearly. I'm here with this guy. So every person you meet knows people you haven't met yet. You never know where or when you're going to meet your beloved. And it's never too late. Never, never, never too late to find the love of your life.
So that's the thing. I'm just going to add a little bit. Everybody gets really picky with online dating, right? They have a couple bad experiences and they go, I'm just going to get really picky, right? And so you start looking for your soulmate in a profile, right? You start setting up all these unrealistic expectations of somebody because most people don't have dating coaches. Most people aren't really thinking about it. They just throw a profile up there. And
they kind of grin and
bear it. They're lonely. They grin and bear it. They throw something up there. They're hoping to meet somebody, right? And really, you just want to use that to go, oh, there's something interesting here. I could go to a phone call, right? And then from a phone call, you go, oh, there was something interesting on the phone call. We could meet for coffee, right? For an hour. That's nothing. After that, okay, start getting picky, but get to the first coffee for an hour at least.
Yeah. That's all. It's an
That's
hour.
all.
It's an hour.
All
I
right.
think we don't have the names of the people from Facebook, Steph. If just you don't have to go backwards, but I know Steph is on our team. She's taking questions from Facebook. So if you could just in forthcoming, if you could put their names in so we know who we're talking to. But there's a question from the Facebook page. It says, "I just walked away from a 1-year relationship. I don't miss any flags. I stop and have conversations with this person every step of the way. In a nutshell, his words, his words did not line up with his actions. I'm sorry, I misread that. So it was I need a schedule and to be made a priority. And I feel like I wasted my time. I'm a little confused. Do you know what the question
I
is?
think somebody's basically saying they spent a year in a relationship and it didn't work out, and I feel like they wasted their time.
So here's what I want to say. You didn't miss any flags is sort of a red flag for me, I'm just going to say. And again, this is love intervention. We are here to really sort of shake things up a little bit and see if you can think of things in a different way. Because most people think that we're just going to magically, slip on a banana peel and meet the love of their life one day and poof, it's just going to happen by magic. Gee, goodness sakes, if it happened that way, people would be a lot happier in their relationships. Instead, being intentional in the process. So saying you don't miss any flags because you have conversations every step of the way is kind of a red flag for me because you know what? The guy that I was talking about earlier, my ex-boyfriend who ended up beating me up, we had lots of conversations along the way. He walked the talk of saying, oh, I saved my mom, after she left my dad, I saved her from all of these abusive relationships, blah, blah, blah. So he talked the talk as if he would never harm a fly, and he tried to kill me. So conversations do you absolutely zero, like literally nothing. There's nothing. Judging a person through a conversation about what they might be like in a hypothetical situation or anything like that is never, ever, ever going to tell you anything about that person. I mean, we'll just role play here for a second. Hey,
you know what? I just realized something. This
what?
Steph is not our Steph. This is a different Steph. She's responding to us. We have a Steph on our team that's STEF.
Oh, I got confused.
And this is Steph who actually asked the question.
Hi, Steph. I'm so sorry. There were so many things there. I got confused. I thought there were multiple different questions. So we're live. We're just like, I don't want to be focused in the screen like that. I'm so sorry. My God, I made a mistake. Whew. So here's what you do when you make a mistake, whether it's with your partner or with yourself, because instead of beating myself up, I'm going to do this. I'm going to brush it off. And I'm going to say, gosh, Orna, it sure sucks not being perfect. Here's the thing. No human beings are perfect. And when you're with somebody in a relationship, you got to be able to give that person the benefit of the doubt and say, oh, you're having a bad day. So I'm having a bad day reading this. I'm sorry, Steph. I understand now. This is really helpful.
I'm going to jump in here because I've been looking at some of the stuff Steph has been saying. So
okay, great. Jump in.
She says, I was the only one doing the work, meaning having the hard conversations. He just agreed, but unfortunately his actions spoke louder. So this is right. This is the place where you said you didn't miss any flags, but that's the flag, right? That's the flag. The flag. Oh, I got excited. I know. The flag is I've made a request. You agree and say you're going to do something different, but then you don't make any effort to do anything different. You don't actually change your behavior. You just go along to get along. It sounds like what this guy was doing, right? And so as you said, he's yesing you to death, right? So here's how to say, I get it. So part of what happened, I have a couple thoughts. I know you want to jump in, but
I
just
don't
let me
want
finish.
You to give me a space, though. Don't go all the way to a solution.
I'm not going all the way to a solution. There's a couple things. First, what I'm hearing is that you're making these requests in a sense to try to manage the relationship, right? And it feels a bit controlling.
No, I don't think that's true because I know we've had clients like this where they think having those deep, meaningful conversations is digging in. So here's where I think things went off the road. So Steph, you're driving down the road. I'm like, I'm dating. I'm Steph. I'm good. I know what I'm looking for. I'm picky. I meet this guy, right? And you're like, okay, guy, come on in the car, right? It's like he's a hitchhiker, let's call him, right? Just in the dating process, right? So he gets in the car and you're like driving. And you're like, hey, do you want to go? Do you like the mountains or the beach? And he goes, gee, Steph, I don't know. What do you like? And he throws it back in your lap, and you're like, I like the mountains. And so you guys drive on up to the mountains. And what you find out is you found out nothing about him because he threw it back to you, and then you didn't discover and dig in to really put it to him to give you an answer.
Right.
I dated a guy like this once. His name was Steve. He kept going, I'd be like, what's your favorite ice cream? And he'd say, what's your favorite ice cream? And I'm like, well, I know what my favorite ice cream is, dude. I'm trying to find out something about you, right? So here's the thing. Most people are conflict. We're talking about the C word, conflict avoidant. They're conflict avoidant. And so they want to go along, like Matthew said, go along to get along. Here's where you fell off your little dating wagon and you weren't driving the car anymore. You forgot to assess his capacity. You forgot to assess his capacity. What is this person capable of? So here's the thing. In the dating process, you have to know what it is that you need from this partner.
Mm-hmm.
And through the dating process, and this is before you ever have a date with somebody, right? You have to know what it is you want. You can't be like, I want Jim, right? Because no, not Jim, and describe Jim because, maybe Jim is married to somebody else or whatever, right? So here's the thing. You've got to start assessing the person's capacity before there's ever any exclusivity in the dating process, right? So before exclusivity, you start making requests and seeing what they're capable of. So you have anything to add?
I do.
I knew you
So
would.
we talked a little bit about the R word as well, the responsibility word. So you say, how do I make it feel like I didn't waste a year of my life? Here's how you do that. You go, oh, let me look at how I could have approached this differently by after noticing that he agreed, but then didn't make any changes, make the request again, and then he agrees and then doesn't make any changes, and then go, okay, and move on, right? That's the new strategy is to go, I'm only going to give him this many tries, right? I'm only going to give him one or two, and see, I know what he said. We don't care about what he says. His actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than words. So you always have to pay attention to somebody's actions over their words. People will say anything to avoid conflict. People will say anything to go, oh, you like me, right? Oh, okay. Oh,
Please
you need me.
bestow your love on me.
Yeah.
Please bestow your love on me. I'm easygoing. Yeah,
I'm easygoing. I dated this woman, and
oh my gosh.
and it seemed like we agreed on everything, right? And she even went and bought a new bike, and she bought the same model and brand of bike I had, just a female version. And I was like, well, that's weird. She goes, well, no, I figured you did all the research and you knew what was a good bike, so I just bought the same bike. And I'm like, all right.
That's weird.
It always felt a little weird to me because I never really knew where she was because she was always just agreeing with me. Well, eventually we move in together, and suddenly everything changes. Suddenly she's got a lot of opinions about things she didn't have opinions about before. And I'm like, what's going on here? This is not the same person.
It was a bait and switch. Do
Right.
you get it? You can't get caught in a bait and switch if you're paying attention to how someone behaves.
Yep.
I'll give you another example, and then we're going to move on to another question. But I've been reading your stuff, and I'm glad we were spot on to help you today, Steph. I'm really happy about that. You have to evaluate the other person's capacity. I'm going to say that again. You do it through the dating process by making requests and seeing what happens. So I did this, I mean, I don't want to say entirely by accident because I had to there wasn't a creating love on purpose when I was single, clearly. And nobody could give me this kind of information. Like people were like, oh, you want to get married? Great. Find somebody from a good family. And I was like, but I'm not from a good family. So nobody's going to want to marry me. It freaked me out when people would say that. Find someone from a good family. I was like, no, my family was madness. So here's the thing. I was dating Matthew. This is really early on in our dating process. And about 2.5 weeks into dating him, he came over to my place and we were going to be going out somewhere, and nowhere near his vehicle, nowhere near my vehicle, not even outside. We're in my apartment. And I said to him something like, I really feel cherished when a man opens the car door for me.
Oh.
Do you think you can make an effort to open the car door when we go out?
Open the car door? Sure, I could open the car door.
I think you said you like that.
You like that?
Yes,
exactly what I said. I went, you like that?
And I said, yes, I like that. Now, I could have missed out on my soulmate because if I thought he would just intuitively know what I liked and didn't like. I could have been like, this guy, Matthew Walters, that I've been married to all these years, he just didn't magically know Orna, like the car door opened. There's plenty of women who don't like the car door opened, right?
You see, you have to realize I was raised in a place where you didn't open a woman's car door. In fact, after I got into the habit of opening Orna's car door, we were back visiting my family. And I went to open my sister-in-law's car door. And she was like, no, I can get my own damn door. Right?
She was mad.
She was offended that I tried to open her door.
I'm trying
and
not
I just
to
looked
laugh.
at Orna and I'm like, right? This is why I didn't grow up opening car doors for people.
Yeah, so you're like two or three too many chances. So you can give one of, but here's the thing: effort counts. So when we got down to the car, Matthew opened my door that night. But it didn't suddenly become a habit. So I don't know, maybe 10 days later, it was like hit miss. But every time we got to his car, if he didn't, and if he forgot, I just kind of stood there smiling. Like, I wasn't like, dude, you're not getting my door like I asked, right? Like, it wasn't a habit yet. But now I got to tell you, all these years in, he's still opening my car door because he knows I like it. And there's all kinds of things like that. I used to say I can open a water bottle, but I swear I don't think I can anymore. I have not opened a water bottle in well over a day, like 15 years. I haven't opened a water bottle. Every time we go somewhere and somebody we got a car last year, right? And we're sitting at the sales, with the forever, right? And it takes a long time. They bring you the bottles of water, right? And every time they hand us each a bottle of water, Matthew opens the one they hand him, passes it to me, and takes the other one. And he always opens my water bottle. It's like, can I open my own water bottle? Yeah, but it's like this sweet little thing he does for me everywhere we go. So it doesn't have to be these things. Do you see what I'm saying? Find out what makes you feel cared for, valued, respected, cherished, like all these things, these little things that are just, they don't have to be big requests, but give the guy some opportunity, right, to see, right? You can't say things like, if you see him behaving in a way you don't like with his family, with his mom, you can't go, well, we're not going to do that, right? Right? That's not having a conversation about the way somebody behaves when there's a conflict, right? You have to understand that person comes with a set of strategies, and you want to evaluate, this is the important word, the capacity of that other person. Can they meet your needs? Because your needs are not negotiable, but your wants are completely negotiable. So if anybody's listening to us right now and you're not sure what your needs versus your wants are, let's get on the phone. Go ahead and put in the chat, one of our team members, our email address, support@loveonpurpose.com, and send us an email. We're going to get you on our schedule because there's a really easy way to know the difference between your needs and your wants. And once you know what you need, what do you require, right? Then you can wiggle on the wants all day long. But if you're just waiting for these like red flags,
right, it's
really hard because you're looking for the things you don't want. And the way our mind filters the world is, you will end up attracting and seeing more and more men that have the qualities you do not want, right? Like when I was online dating, on the other side of this 1994 event, I'm back to dating, right? I'm like dating online and all that stuff. I can't be around cigarette smoke. I have asthma, blah, blah, blah. And like, it didn't matter how I worded it in my profile. Every guy was a smoker. I was so focused on non-smoker. I got smoker. I dated a guy for 3 months who smoked and hid his smoking from me. He made me feel stupid when I realized it was him that was smoking and not the roommate he had, So I'm just telling you, got to know what you need versus what you want. And then you start making requests on what you like and what you want and what you require. And then you can mix it up a bit and make some requests and evaluate this person's capacity. I hope that helps.
So just to follow up, thanks, Carol. Hi, Carol. Carol says, so what was it about Matthew that made you choose to invest in that request? And I'll tell you, I'll answer this really easily. She had just spent the day with her friend Bill, helping him go shop for clothes. And every time she got to the car, Bill opened her car door. Because that's who Bill was. Bill was an open car door kind of guy, right? And so it was later that day, or maybe it was the next day, I can't remember, that she made the request of me, right? That's why she thought about it. She's like, wait, I like this guy, Matthew, but he doesn't open my car door. And the interesting thing about all of this is if I'd have said, really? You want your car door opened? I mean, come on, you're a capable, strong, intelligent
I
woman.
believe men and
I
women
believe
are
men and women are
equal
equal.
in
You can
every
open your own
way.
damn car door, right?
We wouldn't be sitting here.
We wouldn't be having this conversation with all of you.
Now, there's a difference between that response and I don't think I want the burden of opening your car door. That's a totally different kind of response. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, I'm not saying it was a requirement for me that my guy open my car door. But if he would have said, oh, if he would have answered that first way that Matthew just gave the example, you can open your own damn door kind of thing, we wouldn't be a values match, right? And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's funny that Matthew answered Carol's question to me about
Yeah.
what made you, what sparked you. But it's true. Like my friend
There's
Bill,
Bill.
we've been platonic friends for years. I know Bill always opens my car door. But no, I was so grateful because I knew I didn't like it that Matthew wasn't opening my car door. But I liked him enough that I was like, well, maybe it's not that important. Then I spent the afternoon with Bill going clothes shopping, live doll, right? Ooh, I got to play dress up all day with Bill, my good friend. And I was like, gosh, how do I get this Matthew guy to open my car door? And I was like, how do I get him to? That sounds manipulative. He's a grown up. Let me just ask him. And so I want you to understand, I didn't say to him, Matthew only knows the Bill part of the story because of this work we do together. It's not like I said, hey, I spent the day with Bill, right? I want you to hear the way I made the request to this guy who'd only been dating for 2 weeks, right? He didn't have the backstory. He only has the backstory now. I wish we'd have taken better notes if we'd known we were going to do this work together. I would have taken a lot better notes through our dating process. But I know for a fact, like, I was literally thinking in my head, like, how do I get this Matthew guy to open my door? And I was like, well, I'm a grown-up. He's a grown-up. Why don't I just ask him, right? So, boom, I made the request. But I didn't say, hey, I spent the day with Bill and he opened my car door. How come you don't get my car door? Right? I didn't say it like that. I told him how I would feel if he got my car door and opened it for me. If he got it, if he opened it for me. He still does. I want you to understand, like, it's this tiny little thing. But the guy who wants to win your heart, he's going to step up to win your heart. And ladies, I want you to really understand this. Most women are stingy and hold their cards close to their chest and don't tell a nice guy what they truly want, right? They don't tell a guy what they want. And most men that are good men, so many men are out there. We talk to so many men with big hearts that just want to share their lives with somebody, right? They just really want a good woman they can have an intellectual conversation with or raise kids with or just enjoy life with, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of nice guy isn't going to intuitively know and be a mind reader what it is you like versus some other woman he's dated in the past.
And I got to say this, whether a man has the habit of opening a woman's car door or doesn't say anything about his level of chivalry or anything about how much he values women. It just says that he took on the habit of opening a car door versus he didn't. And I think that's really important because, a lot of men got very confused over the last 20, 30 years about what women want and what they don't want because, women want to be equal and they want to go out and they want to, do everything that they can do. And at the same time, they want to be cherished and they want a man to take care of them. And it gets very confusing for men sometimes about what women really want. And so the best way to get what you want is to ask nicely and see how he responds. And if he steps up and makes effort, then you reward him for his effort. And then if he makes more effort, then you've got a good man on your hands. And if he agrees and doesn't do anything like Steph's guy, then move on, right? Because he's just conflict avoidant and doesn't want to.
But he's not your guy.
But he's not your guy, right? Okay, we're going to move on to another question. We got Vicky here, who's been waiting very patiently.
I know. Can we do our intro again? Because somebody may have just joined us
You
on
got
social. It? Hi, everybody. I'm Orna Walters.
I'm Matthew Walters, and this is Love Intervention.
So if you're joining us on Facebook, give us a like or a reaction of some kind, make a comment, share this, invite your friends, tag them. And
if you're on YouTube, subscribe, click the bell. You can comment there if you got a question. Our team will stick it here in the chat for all of us.
And our cat is telling us it's dinner time. I swear we're not torturing her. She's simply on the other side of the door. So if you have a cat, you know what that means. We locked her out of our office for this live stream. So
not sure if everybody can hear that, but if you could, that's what that was. Yeah. All right. So Vicky says, I've been dating a man for about 3 months. Things are going great. However, he has a hard time talking about things. I'm a counselor, so this is particularly difficult for me. Smiley face. I've asked him to share a feeling, but he doesn't seem to trust me enough to do so. So, Vicky, I'm going to give you a really great phrase that's going to help you with this, because you got to talk across the brain, right? When you ask a man what he feels, so many men are just going to give you a blank look because it's a foreign language to them. They don't know what you're talking about. So you could say something like this. You could say, well, I'm feeling really excited about blah, 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 blah. What do you think?
Talk across the brain.
Talk across the brain.
And then, I know you're out there listening to us right now. You go the other way. You say, wow, I think this movie is going to be really good. How do you feel about it? So talk across the brain. I mean, seriously, I sat in group therapy for years with people, men and women, that were, I think the closest in age was like a 17-year gap, almost 20 years. And most of them 20 years older than me. I ended up as a very young person in this group therapy with much older people. I promise you I was meant to be there. It's a long story. I don't want to get into why that happened. But I watched these grown men in therapy paying somebody to talk about their feelings. And literally I would hear the therapist over and over and over again say, that's a thought. Thank you for sharing. How did you feel? And watch these men struggle over and over. That was a thought. How did you feel? What was the feeling? What was the feeling? And yeah, nobody wanted to go after me after this Gestalt chair work. Nobody ever did. I'm good with that. I don't know. Anyway, I'm just saying, it's this thing about the dating him for 3 months. I think you've given him a really long time to see if there's a match on that level. And he may just not be your match, right? So
Right.
if you're having... I always say this, if you're a woman on a date and the man continues to take you out and you make it easy for him, meaning you're very accommodating, you're agreeable.
You're pulling out the calendar and scheduling the next time you get together.
Yeah, or you're just saying, I really had a nice time if you didn't, or even worse, you're filling in the conversation so there aren't gaps. So I'm really going to hope and wish right now, Vicky, that you've seen Friends, because all this dating stuff, I can go back to a Friends episode. It's like, I think it's the last season of Friends. And I'm just going to say it really quick. You can find this episode where Ross and Paul Rudd, who's dating Phoebe, stay home together with the baby Ross and Rachel had. So I hope you know Friends. But it is one of the funniest things because these two characters, do you remember Paul Rudd's character?
Mike.
So it's Mike and Ross at Ross's place with the baby while Rachel and Phoebe go out to the bar. And it is one of the funniest things you'll ever watch because they don't fill in the gaps, and it's supposed to be comedy. So that's why it's funny, because in a normal conversation like you would do and what you've been doing is filling in the gaps. Don't fill in the gaps for this guy. Don't make it easy on him. If it's uncomfortable, probably not your guy.
So we're just going off the information we have, right? So, there's another thing that could be going on, and we've seen this a lot. There are some, and I don't want to stereotype too much, but it's generally women who want to talk a lot, who want to process a lot about what's going on between the two of you. Can we talk about this, right? And they want to talk a lot about it, and as if the talking about it is actually doing anything, right? Processing it is another way people talk about it. And I think sometimes there's a little too much talking about things instead of just noticing and observing behavior and giving people, the space to be who they are. And then when they show you who they are, go, oh, I like that. Or if they show you who you are, you go, oh, I don't like that. And then you make a choice and move on, right?
That's what the dating process is really about.
Right? You let somebody show you who they are and you choose them based on what they're showing you. You don't try to turn them into what you want by asking them over and over and over and over and over and over and over again to be what you want, right? You make a couple of requests, look, you see who they are, how they show up, and then you either invest more or you move on.
I mean, I have a guy who will talk about his feelings, and that's pretty rare. It's really because we teach communication, and all of the communication skills we teach start with I feel blank, and we start our clients figuring out what they're feeling, whether they're men or women, because how do you connect with another person? What's that spark that you have between another person, right? I mean, yeah, some of it is physical, and you're like humming, you're appealing to your eyes, and you go, you're handsome, and all that stuff. But the way we create emotional intimacy is by telling another person how you feel, right? And so, whether you're a man or a woman, I mean, trust me, we've done this for so many years. So many men are unable to identify how they feel. And so many women are starting to be exactly the same way. I can't tell you how many times we've said to a client, that is a feeling. I mean, that's a thought. How did you feel? Okay, thank you for sharing what your thoughts. How did you feel?
So why don't
as
we
a
talk about the difference
counselor,
between a difference between a feeling and a thought?
well, sure,
I'm sorry I interrupted, but I think
you did.
that's a good place to go, right? So do we all know the difference between a thought and a feeling?
No, they don't.
No, they don't. So there's a couple ways to do it. First off, I'm going to do the first, and then I'll give you the second, because the second's your bailiwick. The first one is to realize that a feeling is a body sensation. A feeling is a body sensation.
It's not up
meaning
here.
It's heavy. It's fluttery. It's tight. It's tense.
It's tingly.
It's sharp. Right. It's hot. It's cold. It's heavy. Right. That's a feeling, because feeling fits two things. It describes physical sensation and it describes emotion. And we have one word for those two things because they're actually describing the same thing. Our emotions are physical sensations in the body.
So I'm just going to go one step further because we have a little bit of time. I'm just going to say it like this. If you injured your ankle and you just stood up and put your weight on that ankle, your ankle would send that signal of pain to your brain. You'd probably say something like, ow, right? And that signal is telling you there is something going on with that ankle. Be careful. Emotion is the same way. Emotion is always appropriate. Your feeling state is always appropriate. And because I grew up in a home with abuse, I really want everybody to hear me, because in a home with abuse, you're told your feelings aren't what you think they are, or you don't, you're upset, you're not upset, let me give you something to be upset about, or all of that stuff, or oh, you don't feel like that, or be happy, or be okay with it, or whatever, right? So I was traumatized as a child about my feeling state, and so I grew up not having my own personal north, right? Like when you know how you feel, it's like north, and now you can find south and east and west, and your directions around because you know what you're feeling. If you're unable to identify how you feel, it's difficult to connect with another person. This is why we have so much success with people who are like, I don't know if I've ever been in love. I've never even really had that kind of feeling towards somebody, right? I mean, we've helped people who have, been in their 50s and 60s and never married before because they had trouble connecting, because they had trauma in their childhood and they were disconnected from their feeling state.
Right.
So that's an extreme, but we also live in a society, in a world where our thoughts are prized and our feelings are downplayed.
Yeah.
So don't misinterpret me to say your feelings are everything. No, because your feelings are fleeting. They're momentary. They will change. So I'm not saying your feelings are everything. I'm saying they're appropriate. So whatever your feelings are, they're appropriate. So if you have a feeling and you're feeling angry, right? And somebody's like, you're overreacting, right? You could say, where's the meter, right? Where's the meter, right? Yeah. Because you may not be overreacting. You may be reacting in a way they simply don't like. So here's the thing about telling the difference between a thought and a feeling. I'm going to give you something that we really only share in all of our programs. And it's so simple. I'm just going to give it to you right now because I'm feeling generous. And Matthew started the generosity. So let's just give you some of our best work. The difference between a thought and a feeling is this. If I say the sentence, I think blah, 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 and I fill in the blank, and it makes sense, that's a thought. If I fill in, I think, and I plug in a one-word emotion in that space, it is a feeling. You know why? Your feelings don't make sense.
Because I think sad. I think angry, right? It sounds like caveman talk. It's not proper English, right? Now, we try to make it proper English by saying, I think I feel sad.
And we mix it all together.
I think I feel angry. I think I'm angry, right? You either are or you aren't, right? You don't have to think about it because your thoughts have nothing to do with whether you're angry or not.
Well, here's the thing. The brain, this big prefrontal cortex that we prize in our society, is like on this binary, linear, logical track. But our body sensation, our emotional life is not on this linear, logical, binary track. We can actually feel more than one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Right. And so our body sensation, we're very complex when it comes to how our body sensation works. I mean, I'll give you an example of feeling more than one thing at a time. You could be at an event, like let's say you're at a concert, right? And you love the band. Let's say you're seeing the Rolling Stones. I'm old, so there you go. The Rolling Stones, right? And you love the Rolling Stones, but you are so mad at the friend you're at the concert with. You can feel one way about the Rolling Stones at the concert, and you can feel a totally different way about the person you're there with. Okay. So we're complex. We're complex as beings. So I'm going to say that again. If you say, I think, and you fill in the blank, like, I think we should go to the store and get some milk. That's a thought. It's a sentence. It does not sound like caveman talk. If you plug in one word emotion, right? And it doesn't make sense, or it sounds like caveman talk. Now you have a true emotion. But that's how we connect in this emotional, romantic, passionate, yummy, hamana, I want to be with you space.
It's through that feeling state.
So part of sharing a feeling state.
Yeah, part of what happens though is we attach stories to our feelings. We attach meaning to our feelings.
Yeah.
When, the feelings are separate from those stories and separate from those meanings, because the feelings are just part of being human. The meanings are us trying to understand the feelings. And oftentimes the meaning has to do with the other person. And that's where we come full circle. What we were talking about today, conflict, and about, projecting onto the other person, is you have your story about your feelings, and the story has to do, well, if this person would just fill in the blank, then I would fill in the blank.
Feel better.
Right. I would feel better. I wouldn't feel angry, or I wouldn't feel hurt, or whatever it is. Right. And that other person, when you do that, you give them too much power, because they don't have the power to decide how you feel.
Yeah,
Only you have that power. You're the one who's in control of how you feel. It may not feel like that sometimes, right? Because your feelings come and they're sudden and they're strong and they're powerful, and the stories are right there, and you're like, right? But if you're able to say, hey, look, I have a story about this situation. And the story says that this is what's going on, and I'm feeling angry about that. Right? That's a great way to open up a conversation about that thing when you're having a conflict. You say, hey, look, I have a story about what happened between us earlier. And that story's, and I'm trying to let go of the story, because the story says that you're doing this thing that I don't like. Right? And I want to let go of that story.
There's so much open
space. There's space now for this person to go, oh, wow, I appreciate that. I appreciate you telling me that.
Because what he told me, what was going on with him, without like vomiting all over me,
because
making me responsible.
If instead I just said, look, you're doing this thing and it's making me angry, right? It's like,
who wants to hear that? It's
nobody
so
does.
Off-putting, and I have no choice but to get defensive, right? I literally have no choice. So I'm going to go back over this again, right? I think it's so important. I think blank, fill in the blank, one word emotion, caveman talk, that's a feeling state. Makes sense. That's a thought. And here's the deal. Those of you who like to process your emotions up here, this big prefrontal cortex is not equipped to deal with your emotional life.
Right.
It's just not. It's like trying to cut your hair with a meat tenderizer. Great for tenderizing meat, really not the tool for cutting hair. Okay. So use the brain for things it's good for. Analyzing, judging, like making an assessment, right? Like if somebody's capable of doing, like if they're capable of meeting your needs, right? Great process work for your brain. Your emotional life is not up for debate, because what we do is we start to wonder if our feelings are appropriate. And that's why I kind of started this whole little bit about your feelings are always appropriate. What you do with them are not, right? So
what you do with your feelings is not always appropriate, depending on the choices you make, right? So your feelings are appropriate, your actions, not always so much.
Those you have to stop and give yourself
you have to take responsibility for your actions.
Yeah. So, right? I mean, very clearly, right? If I was mad at Matthew and I killed him, that would be bad. That would not be appropriate to kill my husband or anyone else for that matter, right? So we're just making it really plain for you to see your emotional life is not up for debate, right? Your emotions belong to you. And when you really start to delve into this arena and get connected to your own heart, then you can share your truth and be authentic and go through the dating process in a way where you could evaluate if someone can deliver what you need. And when you find that person, wow, that's where you can really move into something that can be lasting and find your way from that romance stage into the power struggle and beyond to the stability stage and the commitment stage and the bliss stage.
So that's a great place to end. This has been Love Intervention. She's Orna Walters.
And this is Matthew Walters.
And we'll be back in 2 weeks.
Yes, we'll be back on May 24th, same time, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you so much for joining us today. Namaste.